am Becci. I'm an LA-based health and wellness content creator and certified health and nutrition coach. Today I'm going to take you through my Sunday reset. We are going to food prep and the theme is nothing goes to waste. I'm going to make a creamy vanilla cashew milk, and then I'm going to use that pulp and make chocolate chip cookies. And then I'm going to make my green juice for the week, and with that pulp I'm going to show you how I make a delicious curry. We're going to make my favorite creamy vanilla cashew nut milk. For that we'll need cashews. I usually use raw cashews. We have medjool dates, and I like to use ground vanilla bean. It's really good in it, but if you don't have that, you can use vanilla extract. We'll be using 3.5 cups of water, and then a little pinch of salt. I love to use this milk for my matcha lattes. I drink a matcha every single morning, and this one is so good for it. I also like to use this milk for my chia puddings. You can use it in your overnight oats or just like in cereal and granola. It's really good. I'm going to measure the cashews. We want 1 cup, and the beautiful thing about the M1 is that the lid of the pitcher measures exactly 1 cup. I love medjool dates for it. They're gooey, delicious, full of minerals. These are already pitted. If you don't have pitted ones, you want to pit them first. And the ground vanilla bean. This is a really beautiful ingredient. Pinch of salt. And then we're gonna add the water. I'm gonna turn it on. It's already set at 1 minute. And while this is going, I'm going to grab all my ingredients so we can make matcha. Since I want to make the milk last me for the whole week, I double batched it, and I'm gonna put it into these glass jars so they keep fresh. It'll last me 3 to 4 days in these jars. Okay, so these are gonna go in the fridge, and then I have some extra to make my morning matcha. I start with the milk, and you wanna pour it maybe halfway, this much, and then the ice. If you do it this way, you get the nice separation. That's what a barista told me, so I always do let's do a little more ice. There we go. Because the milk is so thick, it separates so nicely. This is nice. This is really nice. This is what I make every single morning. It's my little morning ritual that starts my day. My health journey started when I was 16. I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is a hormonal imbalance, and I was put on birth control, which a lot of girls are that age. And at a time, it was really exciting because it kind of felt like a rite of passage, but I always wondered over the years how I could manage my hormones on a more natural level and not rely so much on medication. And that's kind of what started it all for me. I finished making the milk, and now I want to show you how to make some cookies using the pulp. To get the pulp out, I'm going to open the lid and get the filter out. This is where all the pulp is, but we're not going to waste it. We're going to use it in our cookies. And we want every little bit in here for our recipe. My go-to recipe is a cookie recipe because I have a sweet tooth, but you can add it to energy balls, you can add it to your oats, or bake it into muffins. There's so many ways to use it. Now that we have the pulp, I'm going to prepare all the recipe ingredients for the cookies. We're going to start by mixing our wet ingredients. We have our pulp. I have almond butter, but you can use cashew butter or peanut butter, vanilla extract, maple syrup, and coconut oil. You want to make sure that it's at room temperature and not super hard. You want this to really combine well to get this nice creamy consistency, and also try to get the clumps out as much as possible. Okay, so now this is all combined, and now let's do our dry ingredients. For the dry ingredients, I have almond flour, arrowroot starch, baking soda, and salt. So I just quickly want to blend this in. And now we can add the wet ingredients, and then we can fold in the chocolate chips. And it should turn into this wet dough. If it's too wet, you can add a little more almond flour. This looks actually really good. And now I'm going to fold in the chocolate chips. Kind of just press it in like this. I think this is good. I like to use every part of the ingredients, including what we consider a waste, like the pulp of the nut. I'm very conscious about the ingredients that I buy, and even the pulp of nuts has a lot of benefits and is full of nutrients, and the consistency alone is so good to make cookies, for example, but you can use it for a lot of other recipes as well. I consider food as medicine, and so I want to make sure that I utilize it as much as I can. Because these are gluten-free and refined sugar-free, they are not going to like melt like the classic ones, so you have to push them down a little bit. Voila. I already preheated the oven at 350, so these are gonna go in for 10 to 15 minutes, and while they're baking, I'm going to batch my juice for the week. I have fresh mint. I'm gonna use cucumber, a whole lemon, green apples, and celery. We are going to add a handful of mint first. I like mint because it's good for digestion. Whenever I use greens, I like to put them first so the other ingredients can like weigh it down. I love this recipe, especially in the morning, because it helps me kind of kickstart my body, and it's good for your gut. It's hydrating, it detoxes, it's full of vitamin C and gentle on the gut lining. Next we have the cucumber. I will just roughly chop it. The J2 can handle bigger pieces. And then I'm going to do green apples. Juicing is something that I've started more recently, about like a little over a year ago, and that was purely because my body was craving it. And just also getting more nutrients in, because it's like very concentrated when you drink a juice. It's really the hydration and the water from the vegetable and the fruit. There's no water added. It's mind-blowing. Next, I'm going to use celery. I love celery. Again, it's hydrating and it's full of minerals. And then for the celery, what I realized is don't use the leaves, just like stick with the stalks because it could be bitter. I think this is good. I'm going to start the machine and then we can feed the rest into it as it goes. So I have a couple days worth of juice prepped for the week. I usually have like a small glass. It doesn't even have to be a lot, it really depends, but this will last me a couple days before I make it all over again. So I'm going to show you next what to do with the pulp, because we have a lot of pulp left. This can definitely be reused in a different recipe, and I'm going to show you how to do it with a curry. Before we start the curry, let's get the cookies out of the oven so that they can cool. I'm going to make a delicious lemon garlic curry, and for that we're using the pulp from the juice. But first I'm going to prep it because it's pretty fibrous and I wanted to have it creamy and smooth for the curry. So I'm adding veggie broth. You can do water if you don't have veggie broth. And then I'm going to use half of the coconut milk, just enough to cover it all so we can blend it up. I'm using an immersion blender to blend it. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can just use your regular blender. I'm just trying to get it as smooth as I can. The curry is very simple. These are basically our veggies in there, and then we are going to add chickpeas as well for protein, but I love using the pulp because it is full of fiber and you get like added nutrients. Let's move over to the stove and make the rest of the curry. I'm gonna start with heating up the oil. So the first step is I want to saute my garlic and the onion and get it nice and glassy. And then we are going to add the ginger, and I also have some lemon zest. I'm going to cook this for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to add the seasoning. I just want to make sure the onions are translucent, and then we'll continue with the next step. Let's start with salt and pepper. And then I'm going to add some curry powder. I have extra turmeric because I love the color. It's gonna give it a really nice pop. Then I have cumin and coriander. The last one is cinnamon. And then we're gonna cook it for a minute or so just to toast the seasoning and bring the flavors out. Let's do the chickpeas next. We will use the pulp. This one is blended now and will add to the creaminess. That's why I like to blend it first. And this way you don't have any chunks or fiber. This looks good. I'm gonna add the milk now. This is coconut milk. Now we'll simmer it for about 10 to 15 minutes. I love to sometimes just eat it as is, like a stew, or I will pour it over rice or quinoa, and I like to add some chopped cilantro, and you can drizzle some lemon. It's really nice. Okay, this is nice and creamy, and it smells absolutely delicious. I wish you could smell this through the screen. Okay, this is done, and the last step is to add a little bit of maple syrup to get the flavors out, and I'm also going to use some fresh lemon juice. I'm just gonna put it straight into the pan. Let's do a taste test. This is good. I'm excited. This is gonna be so good for the week. I'm going to let this cool for a little bit, and then we will transfer it into containers since this is for the week. Then we're pretty much done with my weekly food prep. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking along my food prep. I really enjoyed this time today, and if you want to find me on socials, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Becci Neumann, or you can find me on my website, beccineumann.com. I just launched my recipe hub where all of the recipes are going to be included as well. So just come by and say hi. Let's see how it turned out. It's a good cookie.